911, what's your emergency? Yeah, hi, this is going to sound kind of strange, but there's a man stumbling around in circles in my front yard. Could you repeat that? He looks sick or lost or drunk or something. I just woke up to get a glass of water and heard snow crunching underneath my front window, so I peeked out. I'm looking at him now. He's about 10 yards away from my window. Something's not right. What's your address? 1617 Quarry Lane in Pinella Pass. I'm going to send a squad car your way, but that's quite a ways out. Are you alone in your house? Yes, I'm alone. Can you confirm that all your doors and windows are locked? Stay on the phone with me. I know that my front is definitely locked, but I'll go check out my back door again real quick. I appreciate your help, by the way. I know this is kind of strange, but I really hope that... Ma'am, are you still there? He's still in the yard, but what the hell? He's upside down. Ma'am, stay on with me. What's happening? He's staring right at me, but he's standing on his hands now. He's perfectly still, staring straight at me. He's doing a handstand and he's smiling at me and not moving. He's doing a handstand? I don't know how... Yeah, he's facing me and standing on his hands, and he's got this huge smile, and he's perfectly still. What the hell? Please get someone out here now. Ma'am, I need you to remain calm. I put out the call, and an officer is on his way. His teeth are so huge. What the hell? Please help me. Ma'am, I want you to try and keep an eye on him, but make sure your back door is locked again. We need to make sure all possible access points are secured. Can you talk me through and confirm that your back door is locked? Okay. I'm walking backwards now and keeping him in my sight. My hand is on the back door now. It's locked. I need to check the deadbolt, so I'm going to take my eyes off of him for a split second. Alright, ma'am, help is on the way. Just stay on the phone with me. Everything's going to be alright. Ma'am? Ma'am, are you still there? His face is up against the glass. Ma'am, I need you to speak up. What is happening? I looked away for a split second. Now, his face, it's pressed up against my front window. His teeth are huge and he's still smiling. There's no color in his eyes. Jesus, please help me. Why won't he just move? I need you to go to the nearest room and lock yourself inside of it. Do you have a basement or a bedroom that you can lock yourself in? He won't stop staring. He's going to hurt me. Ma'am, I need you to listen to me. Lock yourself somewhere safe until the officer arrives at your house. Can you hear me? Yes, I'm going to lock myself in my room. And you're positive that you're alone in your house, correct? Yes, I'm alone in the house. Wait a moment. He's moving. He's shaking his head. He's telling me no. He can hear us. He's telling me I'm not alone. Ma'am? Ma'am, are you still there? I heard a loud noise. Is everything alright? Ma'am?
I hate the noises people make. They didn't used to bother me so much. But recently, something in me changed. Normally, a little cough here or sniff there would go unnoticed. But lately it is all I hear. It's constant and relentless. You see, I have recently rejoined the workforce after recently getting my life balanced out, and ended up with a nice little desk job that suits me perfectly. I work in customer support, so basically I assist people with their issues as they call. I even have a headset and speech recognition software. I'm really not good with computers, so they had someone set everything up for me. I can now send emails and draft Word documents, just by using my voice. I love technology. For the first time in my life, things were going great. New job, new friends, new relationship possibilities, and even got a new dog. Her name is Ellie. A company even lets me bring Ellie into the office. I have truly never been happier. Then it started. Cough, sniff, cough, sneeze. These were normal sounds that I've heard my entire life, but for some reason, now it's like they were amplified, like loud, exaggerated versions of themselves. They sounded the way a person would mock someone else sneezing or coughing. It made my ears ring. How was that possible? Was it just me? It's like these people were coughing and sniffing through a damned megaphone. Do they know how loud they were being? How destructive they were being? How annoying? No, it couldn't have just been me. Everyone must have heard. I mean, how could they not? It was happening practically non-stop all day. Every couple seconds there was a little sniff, cough, throat clear or sneeze. How was I supposed to concentrate with all these distractions? I was a new guy and I didn't want to be the complainer in the office. At least not this soon, but the noises. They were unbearable. I started to draft a nasty email to my boss with my complaints. But I hesitated. No. This was the old me. The old, neurotic, unhappy me. The me who worried about everything and couldn't not be in control. I took a deep breath and made a conscious choice to let it go. That was 2 months ago. It's spring now. Allergy season. I thought it was bad then. It's hell now. Every single person in my office has allergies. Every single person sniffed or coughed or sneezed or cleared their throat all day long. I sat in my office every minute of every day listening to their noises. You know when you go swimming or tilt your head the wrong way in the shower and you get water in your ear? You know that numb, pulsating feeling you get from the inside of your head? That's what I felt every time one of them made a noise. I started sweating constantly throughout the day. I snapped at people when they spoke to me. I yelled at customers on the phone. I even got a rash. At least I think it was a rash. All I know is that the back of my head would never stop itching. Eventually, it spread to inside my ears. I must have used hundreds of Q-tips in an attempt to relieve the itch. My coworker informed me at one point that they were coming out soaked with blood. I hadn't noticed. This must have freaked out some people around me, because they eventually complained to my boss. They complained about me. I've explained the issue to him, and he feigned sympathy. He told me allergy season would be over soon, and that I would be fine in a few months. Then he sent me on my merry way, back to hell. I started to walk back to my desk. As I passed the break room, I heard a loud sniff, followed by hushed laughter. They were mocking me. I couldn't tell who had made the noise, but I was sure that they all had laughed. I went back to my desk and sat down. The jokes and mock noises eventually stopped as the day went on, though the real ones did not. The headache started again. My hands started shaking soon after. Eventually, all I heard was a constant ringing. No, not this again. I was past this. I was past it. I do not want this, I whispered into the headset. The corresponding words typed themselves into the computer. I assumed. Someone must have heard me because I heard whispers, followed by more mocking noises. Then they all laughed. I took off my headset, stood up, and walked into the break room, past their noises and laughs. I opened the first drawer I found and fumbled around inside until I grabbed what felt like a pair of needle-nose pliers. I stuck them inside my left ear, pushing through the ear canal, scraping the sides along the way until they felt force against the tips. I opened the pliers as far as they could go, pushed forward slightly, and closed them down so I could feel the flesh between the jaws. Then I pulled. I pulled everything out. I closed the pliers and made stabbing motions to loosen anything that may have been stuck and pulled out a few more large chunks. I stabbed a few more times until my eardrum and all those little working parts that made hearing possible was nothing more than scrambled flesh. For one last time, I heard wet flesh slap against the cold tile. I snapped my fingers next to my ear, just to make sure I couldn't hear anything. I inserted the pliers into my right ear. Poorly. They were open slightly, and I was still shaking and adrenaline was pumping, so I kind of stabbed the top and bottom sections of my ear canal. Deep. I slid the pliers out, feeling and hearing the blood starting to pour. Someone came into the break room at this point and started screaming. I knew I had jammed the pliers incorrectly the second time, because I heard the scream cut to black. Though, just for good measure, I yanked out a few more pieces of inner ear. I dropped the pliers, feeling the vibration through my feet, and walked back to my desk, feeling the warm liquids run down the side of my neck. I sat down, leaned back in my chair, crossed my legs up on my desk, and my arms behind my head. Then I just listened. Silence. That old familiar smile formed across my face. Dictated, but not read. The man who lives above you is the quiet type. How lucky you are to live in an apartment underneath someone so courteous. It seems he never drops anything, seeing as how you never hear any loud thumps coming from the room above yours. He's even kind enough to keep the volume on his radio and TV too low to disturb you. Come to think of it, had you not seen and spoken to him, you would think no one lived up there at all. Quite a big change from living below a bunch of rowdy teens. He's terribly kind as well. Within the first week of you living there, he invites you up to dinner and offers his service as a plumber in case you have any leaky faucets. The maintenance crew at this complex is awfully incompetent. You can't have it all, I suppose. He didn't even get offended when he told him you were far too busy and didn't know him well enough to dine with him. He simply smiled, gave you his number, and let you know the offer stood as long as you lived below him. One night, you decided to take up on his offer. Seeing as how you're tired of the hot pockets your busy schedule allows, you call, uncertain about whether or not he is home due to the utter silence from above. And he answers and invites you to join him upstairs. He has made far too much chicken piccata to eat himself. You climb the stairs and enter his apartment. It's impeccable. You already managed to spill some Coke Zero on your carpet. In his 6 years of living there, he has left no stains. Dinner smells delightful. He already has a place set for you, almost as if he was expecting you sooner. Astonished by his kindness, you seat yourself and begin eating. Almost immediately, you feel a bit drowsy, overworked perhaps. He smiles and watches your muscles slowly fail you, the sauce dribbling out of your mouth that you can't keep closed. You start to slide from your chair. You could almost feel the floor meeting your body. But no, he catches you. No sound is made. He carries you down the hall, ever so quietly. You're growing too unconscious to worry, so rest assured, no one will hear a thing. You won't even hit the floor. I don't really remember what happened before it all went dark. I think I was in a car. All I can remember was a loud noise, some screech of metal on metal, and then nothing. I woke up in this beeping place. I'm not sure where I am because I can't seem to open my eyes. Silly, isn't it? I can definitely feel the blanket on top of me, and the beep, beep, beep beside me. But I can't open my eyes or talk or move. People come to poke at me every now and then, and I always try to talk to them. Can someone tell me what happened to my eyes? I can't open them. I try to say, but my vocal cords don't seem to want to cooperate, so I guess I'll wait. These people seem to know what they're doing. They poke in the same places every time. sometimes with their fingers, sometimes with a sharp thing with no name. They don't say much, these people. Just come, poke, sigh, and go. Someone opened my eye today and held a flashlight over it. It hurt, and I couldn't tell them to stop, but just the movement of my eye felt amazing. Did you know that if you don't open your eyes for a long time, they can actually stick to your eyelids? I didn't. Do now. It didn't hurt though. It just felt good when it unstuck. Somebody's been holding my hand and reading me stories. There's 7 chapters into Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets now. I'd tell them that I've already read them, but I can't. They hold my hand sometimes and just sit with me. So it's just me, them, and the beep, beep, beep. I think it's my mom. She was crying today. I wanted to make her happy and not sad. But something's definitely wrong with my arms because I couldn't hug her better. I'll have to tell her when I can that I wanted to help. Some people came into the room while my mom was crying, said that she should leave, and that she shouldn't be here for this. But I didn't recognize the voice and I didn't want Mom to go. I was scared. She cried louder, said, "No, she's still there." And I wanted to shout, "Of course I am. Where would I have gone?" And everyone left. My mom came back a bit later, sniffling. She sat down and started crying a bit louder, and louder until she was almost screaming. And then she hit me. Right in the face. I couldn't tell what I've done wrong, but she hit me again and again and again, and I couldn't say sorry or cry or stop her, only sit there until the men came and took her away. 2 of the men stayed though, and they were mumbling, and I couldn't make out what they were saying until I caught the word coma. I wanted to scream, shake, jump up, and slap them in the mouth, but I couldn't. I couldn't say stop. I couldn't say, "Please, I'm here. I can hear you. Please don't do this." Nothing. I could just sit there while they poked me with some sharp thing with no name. That must be a needle. The beep, beep, beep turned into a beep, beep. And I felt myself get tired. I wanted to ask what they were doing, what they thought it would help to slow the beeping down, but I couldn't. I was screaming at the top of my lungs, but I wasn't moving. I don't want to die. I don't want to fade away. I need to hug Mom, tell her everything's okay, tell her I'm here and I'm fine. But I don't think I'll get the chance now. Beep, beep, beep. I used to work in this pretty old building. It was originally the courthouse for the city I live in. I remember when I first started working there, people would tell me about the odd goings-on, like strange noises, lights flickering or turning off completely, weird smells, etc. It seemed like everyone I worked with had some sort of experience. I never put much stock into that sort of thing. Paranormal activity? There had to be a logical explanation. After working there for a while, I felt like I had the building figured out. Clink, clank, clink. The heater turning on. We were in the middle of the basement of the building, and all the pipes led to the boiler room adjacent to my office. Hiss. The AC unit in my office turning on. Like I said, we were smack dab in the middle of the basement. Air didn't fluctuate too well, so we had a separate AC unit for our office. Clunk, clunk, clunk. The ice machine in the fridge in our break area. Whoosh. The toilets being flushed and the water running through the pipes above me. As for the flickering lights, I'm sure it would lead to just faulty wiring. The building had been condemned twice, and the odd smells, I just blamed on the people. I worked as a security dispatcher for a school district, and I usually ended up working the graveyard shift. We were located in the district office, which was a 3-story building, 4 including the basement. We had surveillance cameras in various areas of all the schools, as well as every floor of our building, and outside. We also had a dial-up alarm system. When the system was alarmed, any noise would set off an alarm, and I could dial up the area and listen to exactly what set the alarm off. The system also brought up the camera of whatever area was triggered. Looking back, I think my first experience was the elevator. Our custodial crew left at 0:15, so after that, there shouldn't have been anyone inside the building. One night, I received an alarm from the lobby area of our building on the first floor. I listened to try to figure it out, what set the alarm off, as I couldn't see anything out of the ordinary on the camera. I didn't hear anything either. This sort of thing happened. Sometimes the system was faulty and we received bogus alarms. I cleared the alarm and almost automatically I received an alarm from the lobby of the basement. I didn't need to listen to see what the cause of the alarm was. The elevator doors were opening and closing. I went out to investigate. It was just down the hall from where I was. I could hear the elevator doors continuously opening and closing. I'd never had that happen, but it was an old building. As I walked up, I kinda got this creepy feeling, like I was going to find something inside the elevator. But it was empty. I hit the call button and the door stopped. I stood there for a minute, looking inside the elevator, checking the doors. I'm not one for elevators, so I didn't step inside. When I stuck my head inside, I smelled a putrid smell. It filled my nostrils and seemed to burn my throat. I pulled back and gagged, and then the elevator doors seemed to slam shut. I was slightly unnerved, but brushed it off and went back to my office. I called the elevator company and scheduled for them to come check it in the next morning. The rest of the night was quiet. I had the next 2 days off and forgot about the incident. I went back to work on the graveyard shift and started my routine. It was about 2:30, and all had been quiet. I received an alarm and saw that it was on the 3rd floor of our building. I checked the camera, and once again saw nothing. I dialed up the alarm and I heard something. It sounded at first like a fan blowing, but after listening for a little bit, it started to sound like someone whispering. I saw no one, but the cameras didn't cover every angle of the building. I started to wonder if someone had stayed late. No one notified us, and people were aware of our protocol, but not everyone followed it. I decided it would be best to have one of our guards on call to check it out. It took him about 15 minutes to get to the building. The guard radioed and told me he had arrived. The whispering was still going on. I was beginning to wonder if it was a fan or some sort of machinery making the noise. I told the guard the area of the alarm and waited. As the guard moved through the building, alarms were being set off, and I could see him walking via the cameras. He made it to the 3rd floor. I watched and saw him make it to the area where the whispering was coming from. He stopped, just under the camera. I could see the back of his head and body, but not his face. He stood there for what seemed like minutes. I dialed up the area and the whispering seemed louder now. I can almost make out words, but it was so fast. It sounded like the same thing was being repeated over and over. All of a sudden, the guard turned his face toward the camera. His eyes were wide and his mouth was wide open like he was screaming, but nothing was coming out. I was pretty freaked out. I didn't understand what was happening. I radioed him and asked what was wrong. My voice was trembling. He didn't respond, just kept staring, unblinking into the camera. I asked my coworker if they were pulling a prank, and he looked freaked out as well and shook his head. He gasped and I looked back at the screen. He was gone, walking back the way he came. I watched as he made his way through the building and down the stairs towards my office. Then he was at the door. We kept the door locked, but there was a small glass window cut out. I saw him look inside. My heart was beating fast. Then, as if nothing happened, he said, "Hey guys, what's going on? Let me in." He had a playful look on his face. I went up to the door and smelled a hint of that awful smell again. Without opening it, I asked, "What just happened up there? What the hell were you doing?" He looked at me confused. "What do you mean?" I checked the area and there was nothing. I came down to give you my report. I was furious. I yelled, "Were you messing with us right now? Why would you do something like that? That's horrible." He looked really confused then. "I don't understand what you're talking about. I went and checked the area and found nothing. And now I'm here trying to give you my report." I cracked the door open and the smell was stronger. I grabbed the paper and slammed the door. He walked away, head shaking. I watched as he left the building. I went to complete my report, somewhat unsure what to write. The sound seemed to have stopped once the guard left the area. I decided to just say, "Area was found secure." I grabbed the guard's report from the table and sat there without looking at it. When I read it, I was filled with a variety of emotion. His report read, "I'm watching you to try to watch me. I can see you, but I am unseen." I tried to reach the guard on the radio, but he did not respond. I emailed my supervisor and notified him of the situation. The rest of the night was uneventful. The next afternoon, I received a phone call from my supervisor. He said he had tried repeatedly to reach the guard from the night before, but had been unable to. He wasn't very happy about the incident either, and wanted to know what happened. He said he would let me know as soon as he had talked to him. I went into work that night, but I felt a bit off. Walking through the stairwell and down to the hall into my office, I felt as though I was being watched. And not by the cameras, it was something else. I got goosebumps all over and realized it was very cold. I walked a little faster and made it to my office, but not before smelling that rancid smell again. I slammed the door behind me. My counterpart was already there and the other crew left. 15 minutes later, we saw the custodial crew leave. They usually turned and waved at the camera when they left, but not that night. They kept their heads straight ahead and left the building. For a moment as I walked out the door, I thought it looked like one of them had their mouth widely ajar. I thought it was weird and assumed I caught her in a yawn. I checked my email and saw that my supervisor had sent one stating that he was still unable to reach the guard and said he left a voicemail and email telling me not to come into work until he spoke to him about the situation. Another guard would be covering his shift until then. I felt a little relieved. I really didn't want to see that guy again, for a while, if ever. A few hours had passed. We received some alarms here and there for a few school sites, all uneventful. Then, I received an alarm from the second floor of my building. I was slightly apprehensive to check the alarm, but it was my job. The camera was blacked out. I thought it was odd and made a note to have someone check it in the morning. I dialed up the alarm and bit my lip. Nothing. I kept listening for a while. Sometimes silence could be really unnerving. But what broke the silence? Even more so. I heard it clearly that time. It wasn't whispering. It was a deep male voice saying over and over quickly, "I'm watching you to try to watch me. I can see you, but I am unseen." Then there was a deep rumble that almost sounded like laughter. I was really freaked out. I didn't think it was possible for someone to be in the building. I got on the radio and said I needed a guard ASAP. We only had one guard on duty, and he said he was wrapping up at a school across town, so it would be at least 30 minutes until he would arrive. I looked at my coworker who was biting his nails and staring at the screen with cameras. Then I saw his eyes grow large, and he went pale. I turned to look at the screen and saw why. The camera wasn't black anymore. I could see the area now. It was a hallway on the second floor, but in the middle was a dark human figure. It looked like a shadow. All I could make out was a silhouette that looked to be made up of a black mist. Then suddenly there were speakers. I heard in a hoarse, crackling voice, "Can you see me now?" And then there was a wailing so loud I had to cover my ears. Everything went black and silent. All I could hear was my heart beating. After a minute, the emergency lights kicked on. The room was dimly lit, and I didn't see my coworker anywhere. The generator kicked in for the security system, and it was still rebooting, so we couldn't check the cameras anymore. I turned and looked at the door, and it was wide open. My heart felt like it was going to beat out of my chest. I didn't know what that thing was, but in that moment, I believed in everything. I made the decision to get the hell out of there. The job wasn't worth it. I shakily started to make my way through the dark basement. The emergency lights helped in making the situation all the more creepy. I started to sob when I saw a human form at the end of the hall. The smell was back too, and stronger than ever. I tried to cover my nose and mouth with my sweater, but it didn't help much. I got my phone out and turned on the flashlight. "Charlie?" I called my coworker. I felt completely uneasy that he was just standing there, his back to me. I was about 10 feet away when he turned suddenly, his eyes wide and mouth wide like he was trying to scream, just like the guard. I screamed and tried to turn the other way when I saw another human form at the end of the hall. I heard that hoarse, crackling voice again.
"Can you see me?"
I had seconds to make a decision, and I decided to run back in the direction of my coworker. That was the quickest way out of the building. He stood there, unmoving as I ran past, but made an awful gurgling sound. It sounded like he said, "I see." I felt as if I might faint, but as I saw the stairwell that would lead to the exit and my freedom, I felt a burst of adrenaline. As I made it to the top, I felt a coldness, and then I heard the voice again.
"Look at me, Pamela."
I didn't turn around. I reached the door, ran out, and slammed it shut behind me. I kept running through the parking lot until I reached my car. I was opening the door and I heard something behind me. Something grabbed my shoulder and I screamed and turned. And I saw it was the guard who I had called earlier to inspect the alarm. He looked at me with concern and asked what had happened and if I needed assistance. I told him I just needed to get away from the building right now. He told me I wasn't driving anywhere and to get into his car. It was out on the street and I ran towards it and got inside. I knew I was probably in shock and shouldn't drive. Plus, I knew the guy well enough. I couldn't look at the building. When we were far enough away, I told him what happened. He looked at me like I was insane. I don't think he ever had a call out to the building. I had him drop me off at my boyfriend's apartment. The next day, I didn't want to go back, but I had to get my car. So my boyfriend took me over and said he would stay with me. I saw my supervisor in the parking lot. When he saw me, I could tell he was furious. "Where the hell did you go? Charlie called me this morning and told me that you walked out in the middle of your shift." "Charlie called you and told you that? What? You know what? No. I just have one thing to say. I quit." He looked shocked and opened his mouth as if to say something, but then just walked away. I got in my car and I've never stepped foot in that building ever again. About a week after I left, I heard that the guard from the night I first heard the whispers was found hanging in his apartment, eyes and mouth wide open. A few days later, there was a report about a string of suicides of employees from that building. 2 custodians and Charlie were all found to have committed suicide, and all found with eyes wide and mouths agape. I did some digging around online and found these were not isolated occurrences. Even as far back as 1922, when the building was a courthouse, there were reports of multiple employee suicides. I have no idea what happened those nights, or what is even in that building, but I am a believer now. It's been a few years since then, and I try to avoid that building as much as possible. But sometimes I do have to drive by, and I can't help but look up at it, wondering what might be looking back at me. I love Symmetry. I'm not sure exactly why, but I loved it since I was a kid. Most children are messy and forgetful of their things. Not me. I knew everything had its place, and in my room, everything was right where it belonged. My parents didn't have it. My grandparents didn't have it either. Not a single person in my family had it. I started referring to it as it because I truly believe it's a thing inside me. A stowaway that shouldn't be there, but lives inside me. It's a need, a desire, a longing to be perfect. Perfect on both sides. As an adult, I'm at the point where I can't live my life normally. I can't keep a job. People don't stay with me because they can't handle it. Honestly, I don't even care when they leave. They're messy and make things difficult. They roll over to my side of the bed instead of staying on their own. They leave dishes in one side of the sink, but not the other. I can't work anymore, so when they leave for the day, I have to stay home and fix everything. It's a relief when they leave for good. That feeling never lasts long, though. Eventually it comes back and finds something else that needs fixing. You may be asking, why would I seek out relationships to begin with if I can't stand them? Well, it's hard for me to sleep in the middle of the bed all night long without moving. Other than the relationship problem, my life is pretty much in order. I say pretty much because there's one last issue that must be dealt with. You see, I have what's called heterochromia hyderium, or 2 different colored irises. My right eye was cornflower blue. My left, pale green. Both my parents have cornflower blue eyes. My siblings and cousins as well. My green eye is the broken one. It makes me unbalanced. Every time I look at myself in the mirror, it stares right back at me. That's all I think about now. Everything is in its right place, except for my green little mistake. It didn't hurt at first, when I dug the spoon under my eye. It didn't even hurt when it popped out and was hanging by my cheek. Was it shock that was keeping the pain away? Or was it? I snipped the optic nerve and blotted the warm fluids that were streaming down my face. My vision being cut in half was a strange sensation. What was left of the dangling flesh, I placed back in the now empty hole. I bandaged the wound, rinsed the spoon. I went to sleep. I woke up, happy. I slept better than I had in years. It was finally done. I was fixed. I got out of bed and stumbled to the bathroom. My body ached and my head was on fire. I flipped the switch in the bathroom, and the light was blinding. I slowly removed the bandage that was now soaked with blood and was sticking to my face like tape. When I looked up to the mirror, my stomach turned. Only then had I realized what I had done to myself, and I couldn't believe it. There was a hole in the left side of my face, but not the right. I was unbalanced. Again. It was much harder digging out the second eye. My hands were shaky when I dug in the spoon. I missed several times, puncturing my pupil 3 times before I got it in the right place. Once the eye popped out, I reached for my scissors to finish the job. The blood from the previous night had dried on the blades, so the scissors didn't cut very well. You know when you were a kid in elementary school and your teacher made you cut construction paper for art projects? Did you ever try to cut too many pieces at once, but the scissors couldn't take it? The blades would kind of fold over each other and the paper would get pinned between them. That's what happened with my eye. The optic nerve was pinned between the 2 blades. It was stuck. And as I tried desperately and frantically to make it unstuck, I slipped on the blood and started falling to the floor. Reflexes kicked in, and I let go of my eye to try to break my fall with my hand. The weight of the stuck scissors on my hanging eye was unbearable. I knew I couldn't stand it long enough to make it to the kitchen to get a knife. So I pulled it straight out of my head. I felt the flesh tear from inside my skull. I felt it rip and spew liquids everywhere. I knew I was crying, but there was no telling the tears from the blood or the ocular fluid when I heard the wet slap of bloody flesh against the tile floor. I knew I was done. I knew it was done. I could live my life now without trying to see other people's awful, messy, uneven lives. The relief washed over me, and I knew it would last this time. I had never felt this way before, never had this much hope. As I laid in my bathroom on that cold, wet, sticky tile, I smiled for the first time in years.